I've decided to do a recording on assignment one, stage one of the IFSM 300 to help you guys out. I'm getting a lot of questions. I just went through a class, and I think this is for online classes. It'll be better if I can explain it via video. But let me start with the story. I was a lieutenant at the basic school here in Quantico, Virginia, and I had this general, Vietnam general, one-star Marine general, came to talk to us. We were in the field, sharp-looking guy, thin, lean, mean Marine, and he was going to talk to us about the Marine Corps and the tasks that lieutenants had in the Marine Corps. So I'm expecting this big, knowledge, wisdom, combat-tested piece of advice that was going to make my career. So he gets up there and starts talking about a lot of things, but he said the most important task or word he had for his lieutenants was this: if I ask for a ham sandwich, give me a ham sandwich, not a cheeseburger deluxe. And we're all sitting there like, what? So he wanted to explain that. He obviously was a one-star general, Vietnam vet, seen it all. So one of the hardest things he had to do was get his people to do what he needed, especially when it came to information. So if he wanted a ham sandwich, he wanted a ham sandwich. And what he kept getting from his staff and from his lieutenants was a cheeseburger deluxe. I mean, it's great that people do the effort to impress the general and to do all the things that we do to deliver a message and to look impressive, but they were missing the mark. He only needed a ham sandwich. So I get it. Today, especially in today's environment, a lot of young people are kind of a Facebook, Twitter generation, and when they get a task, they just run with it, which is an amazing thing for young people. They get things done, they get into it, but sometimes they miss the mark because they start to make up stuff that may not be needed. I was a Marine for 25 years, flew helicopters, been all over the place, and a GS-15 garment, retired from that too. Now I'm teaching. So I wanted to share some of the things that helped me in my career that I think they're important. Another version of the ham sandwich is ATQ, answer the question. So why is it important? In today's environment that is so dynamic and so complex, especially in the places of you work, you're putting a lot of effort, and you may get frustrated because you're pretty much in par with other people. And I think one thing that will really help you out is to be more focused on the task at hand. Very few people are answering the task. They are coming up with a lot of things. I have worked with very smart people in the cyber operations, extremely smart people. But the problem when you work with smart people is that they sometimes cannot answer the questions. They come up with stuff. They get in there, they're fighting, they're making stuff up, but they miss the mark. One thing that helped me was focus the effort on what was needed. Now, you can always, once you get to that goal, you can always add to it, but it is very important, especially when you get on the layers of leadership, when you get up there, that you're the kind of person that can provide wisdom and clarity to the issues that are going around. And that is hard to do in today's environment, especially working with very smart people. I sat there and I watched their discussion, realizing that they were not talking. And that's because they were so into impressing and delivering cheeseburger deluxes that the SEAL sat there waiting for his ham sandwich that he never got. For that to another story, I was a lieutenant, my first squadron, operational squadron. I'm from Puerto Rico. My English is not so great. Well, guess who they picked to write the first SOP in the squadron? Me. So I'm sitting there going, why did they pick the Hispanic guy to write the SOP? Well, it turns out that's the best thing they could do. He helped me to learn to deliver the ham sandwich. So how does this relate to assignment one? One of my goals for this course is not to teach you about IFSM, Information Systems Management, but also to make you better than you are today. That whatever I share makes you better. And this is one area I think a lot of people could use to focus their writings in a way that they're precise and clear. And that's what I'm going to try to do with assignment. This assignment is perfect for this purpose because it's kind of a complex assignment. And some of you are entering into a field you don't know anything about, like information systems management. And then you're going to be dealing with a case study, which is also kind of complex. And you have to bring all those things to bear. First week is the hardest. The first assignment is the hardest, but I guarantee you, by the time you finish your 8 weeks and you come through those 4 stages, you're going to master this and you're going to thank me for it. Every class, I've had students come back and tell me how transformative was this information I gave, this wisdom I share. Another problem is this is an online class. I've been teaching hybrid classes, which I love, but in online, you miss that contact. For that, what I do is on Thursdays at 6:30, we're going to meet. I'm going to be available. You come if you want to. And I'm going to make myself able to answer any questions, whether it's content or for the future assignment. I'm going to do that every week. I don't have to. But I think it's essential for you to get the most value out of the class material. And I'm trying to bridge that online sterile environment with something that is practical to you. So let's start, all right? So the assignment for this week, it is imperative that you understand that the overall, what we're trying to do is you're writing a single report in throughout the course that is broken down into 4 stages. So it's one report. We're going to end up with finishing one report at the end of the class. But we have broken this assignment into 4 stages. So that's part of the understanding. It's very important you understand that. So where do you find the assignment? You go to Assignments and Assessment, go to the Activities and Assessment tab under Assignments, and there it is. There is the assignment there. You download it, open it in your Downloads folder. Should come up here pretty soon. Okay, there it is. I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it. And most of that first part of the assignment is explaining that, which I just said. One report broken into 4 stages. Section 1 is going to deal with strategic use of technology. Section 2 is process analysis. Section 3 is requirements. Section 4 is, and our final stage is going to be system recommendations. Every 2 weeks. So Section 1 is doing week 2. Section 2 is doing week 4. Section 3 is doing week 6. And Section 4 is doing week 8. So 2, 4, 6, and 8. 2 is the one we're going to discuss today. And we'll set the tone for future assignments. I'm not going to do this again. So pay attention to how I do this. So what are the sources for the assignment? Let's go back to to our class. All right. The first source is going to be your weekly classes. So week 1 and week 2 are imperative that you read this too, because there is concepts in here that you are going to apply on the assignment. In week 1, there's going to be a lot of information about information system organization, but mainly about business strategy. It's very important you understand that concept. In this stage, the one thing you need to know is that you're writing from a business perspective. Most of us are in a section, a division, and when we are tasked with something, we tend to bring it down to that which is in front of us. That's not how big business work, and it should not be. It should be the way government and government and other organizations work. They should look at the big picture first. So business strategy is looking about the big picture. So that's why it's important for you to read these sections and understand what business is. Because in stage 1, every task is answered via that lens. So the overall purpose of this assignment is that you're an organization. As a matter of fact, let me turn to that. So you got class material. Then another thing you're going to need for this assignment is on the course resources. Course resources is a case study. You need to download that. Course, the case study explains the exercise. It's the background to this report. So you got the class material with information about concepts, and then you have this case study. So the one thing you understand now that this is your case study. You are, in essence, an employee of this company. So think of the case study as your notes. You work in the company, you know what it's about, you sit with all the leadership that are involved in this project, and I'll explain that here in a second what that is. And this is your brain. You're going to use this. Class material, when it's used in the assignment, will be quoted and referenced. The case study, you do not have to reference because this is you. These are your notes, okay? I hope that make that clear. In there, you write about the organization itself, business strategy concepts. Let me just hide this for a second. All right, let me make it bigger then. So business strategy is all here. Goals, current business environment, strategic decision, things you're looking to do, the challenges, what the management direction is. For this stage 1, and I think for stage 2, you're going to need all of this. Your task, okay, you're a business analyst assigned to HR. And what you're doing is, this company does manual hiring right now. So basically, they get resumes for people. They announce a billet that they want to fill for a contract. And then they get the resume, and then everything is manual. Everything is done through email or people meeting and coordinating. Well, that is not supporting their business strategy for expansion, which is explained earlier. So they decided that they're going to move into some type of automated process. They're not quite sure what it is yet. It could be a outsourcing capability. They may use something like LinkedIn or some of those usjobs.com to get, they don't know, but they're working on it. They are going to realize that they're going to realize their dream, moving from manual process to something automated. So let me give you a big thing. We already decided it's going to be software as a service. So it's a capability that is in the iCloud that they're going to use. But that is the end story. We haven't gotten there yet. Stage 1 is going to set the settings for what the business needs to do. And I'm going to go through that real quick. In the assignment, it tells you that we got to figure out what that strategic perspective is. Then they got to look at the process, what they're doing manually that needs to be converted into something else. And then what are the requirements, regardless of what they buy, if they have sources, or if they use software as a service, or they do it in-house. They buy an application and just do it in-house. They don't know yet, but they need to figure out what the requirements are. But at the end, they're going to go to that system requirements. This is what we're going to recommend. Whatever solution it is, this is my solution. You will do that in the last week. So now we're focusing on the first part, the background. What is it that this system content? How do we decide what decision we're going to make? What product, what service? You don't do it in the context of the business. That's why reading week 1 and week 2 is important, because that tells you what that business strategy is conceptually, and then the case study tells you how the company is actually implementing a business strategy and what they are. So that is all the background. So what are your sources? Course material, case study. There's one more source. In this assignment, you're required to provide 2 references. One from the course material. So somewhere in this stage, you have to reference at least once, or only once actually, the course material. Then the second reference has to come from external sources. And I'll show you an easy way to do that. And I'll explain as I do the assignment. So far so good. So let's get into it. So you have your course material. You have read it. You're ahead of the game. You understand the concepts involved from week 1 and week 2. You have read the case study. And by the way, for every stage, you don't have to read the 2 weeks that were involved for that stage. So for week 4, you'll read week 3 and 4. That will help you shape stage 2. And you have to reread the case study. There is no ways about it. It's going to happen. You just have to keep doing that. Reading the case study, because this is the thing. When they're the students that just start filling, not doing the ham sandwich, right? They just get into the assignment, they start filling out based on what they understand business strategy is, or what competitive advantage is. And they start filling stuff up, and they start making stuff up. You do not need to do that. It all comes from the material. All right? So now that you review the weekly content and the case study, you open up your assignment, and here we are. All right, I'm trying to keep my window open so you don't lose me as I'm talking to you guys. So read all this stuff on the first part as kind of background information. A lot of what I said is in here, and then you get to the assignment itself. All right, the report is called a BSR, which stands for Business Analysis and System Recommendation. Other people use other tools. Every business has their own tool. Some people call it business case analysis. That could be another. They don't normally have other formats, but in this case, we're going to use the format of a business analysis and system recommendation, because that's what you're doing. You're analyzing the business to figure out what recommendation you're going to provide. Okay, so far so good. So the first stage, it has two parts. It has an introduction, and the introduction is for the entire report, not just for stage one. So that this is the intro to the report. So remember, we're writing one report in 4 stages. It's like you come in on Monday. These first 2 weeks, you're working on that first part, the introduction to the report, and this first section called strategic use of technology. All right. A question was brought up by one of the students in class, and also on one of the Ask Your Professor questions, was the length of the paper. It depends. Normally what you have is, remember, this is APA format, right? So the first page is your title page, APA formatted title page. We'll go through that here at the end. Then you have your content, which is the introduction and the section one strategic use technology. We're not delving into it. And then the last page should be the reference list with just the 2 references. In the past, a lot of students have come up with 4 or 5 references. Don't do that. You don't get any extra credit. If you read my announcements, I'm all about quality and not quantity. Quality and not quantity. So quantity is, it just, people don't have the time. So answer the question. Okay. So right now, by just saying that, you get 1 page for title. Let's say 2, 3, 4 pages for the content, probably between 4. Most people have a hard time bringing it down to 4 pages. I don't worry about that. I don't. If you write more than 4, you're not gonna get penal. But I don't want any pages either, right? There's enough task in this assignment that you will fill out 4 pages of content, no problem. And then the last page should be your reference. So basically, the minimum you should have is 6 pages. Title, 4 for content, 1 for reference. And is there enough material? Believe me, there is plenty of material. All right. So you have your assignment. You're reading it. Read the whole thing first, so you understand what it kind of looks like, and then all the formatting assignment. If you follow a PA assignment guidelines, you'll meet the format for the most part. Overall, this is a good view of a crunch down outline for this part. You're going to do an introduction for the report. Here is the strategic use of technology. A is business strategy. B is competitive advantage. C is strategic objective. And D is decision making. Okay? Then read the rest. All right. Oh, one more thing I like to highlight. Please name your paper properly. Last name, underscore first name, underscore stage 1. It really helps me out organize, especially with a class this long. And then another thing I want to mention is the title page. It tells you what to put. Tell the report. Business, BSSR, spell it out. Underneath that, stage 1. That's it. With the company name, your name, course and section, number, and date. That's your title page. It's in there. Follow that. Some people have asked me, is this one single report? Yes. At the end of the class, all 4 stages will be combined. Now, if there's a tip, this is another one. I have students that submit the stage 1 separate from the stage 2, stage 3, and then the 4. The problem with that is, for stage 4, you are to submit the full report. And people have a really hard time trying to come at the end of the class and try to bring all the stages together. So what I recommend is you start with stage 1 and you build on that. The only thing you have to do is change the title page to stage 2. You add stage 2 to it, and then you add the extra 2 references for the reference list. So you basically create one document, stage 1. For the next time we move to stage 2, just keep adding to it. So by the time you finish with your the last stage, the report will be already in one. They will be properly formatted. Again, I mentioned this in every class, and about there's always 2 or 3 cats that try to do everything separate, and then it's impossible to bring all these formats together at the end. I have found that Word is not the best one to be consistent on formats, especially with the numbering. It changes on you and implements different strategies. So one paper grows with each stage. All right, stage 1. So ham sandwich. How do I do that? After I read everything, you create your outline. There is enough tasking here to fill out the assignment. So the first thing after the title is you're going to have an introduction. You can put it centered. You can put it to the side. Doesn't matter to me. But now you begin. And then what I do with the assignments, I create a task list. I do that with everything I get in life. Whether it was a Marine Corps report or with something that was tasked, I'll figure out what is the task. I get that in writing. And then after that, I break it into tasks. And the assignment gives you everything you need. And then the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to create this outline with subtasks. Then all you have to do is answer the question. And you'll build a report that way. So obviously introduction is the first part. So we go in here, begin your report with a clear, concise, well-organized introduction to what? So here comes the subtask. Explain why you are writing the report and what is to come. Bingo. Ta-da. Are you done? No, keep reading. All right. So what is that supposed to mean? They should briefly set the context for MTC, which includes business purpose, the environment, and current challenges. You see how I did that? I actually now have 5 things that I need to answer to. There's one more. And then at the end, the last task is then specifically provide what is to come from the report. So this thing of you making up an introduction the way you want it, this is what most people do, right? I'll just write my. No, listen to this. Listen to what's provided to you. And now that you have this outline, all you have to do is answer it. So explain why you're writing this report. I'm writing this report to do what? Well, what is the main thing of the BSR? Well, to collect information, blah, 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 from the business, to develop requirements, and ultimately recommend a solution to move MTC from a manual process to a new automated hiring system. Bingo. What is to come of the complete report? Ooh, what is to come? Well, do you know what is to come? All 4 stages. You're going to explain strategic use of technology, you're going to do a process analysis, you're going to do requirements, and then ultimately it's going to be 4 stages, report, blah, 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 blah. And you explain that a little bit. That tells me you understand the assignment. And then what's left over? Okay, somewhere in there, probably on the why you're writing the report and between why you're writing the report and what is to come, you need to write about the business purpose, the environment, the current challenge. What I do is I actually write my answers right underneath these tasks, right? As I fill them out, I answer them based on the case study and the case material. MTC business purpose. So now I have this plethora of answers that I'm just typing garbage here, but you understand what MTC current challenges, blah, 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 right? And then what is to fully provide for report? Report, 4 stage, blah, 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 all right? Now that you have this outline, you get rid of the questions, right? In theory, just get rid of them. and then you end up with the answers. And all you have to do now is create a cohesive paragraph that puts all this information into a nice little introductory paragraph. Basically, I asked for a ham sandwich. You figure out it requires a bread, ham, cheese, lettuce, and tomato. And I provided bread, ham, cheese, lettuce, and tomato. Exactly what I was asked. Now, if you want to go beyond that, okay, not necessarily. You're not going to get extra points. In life, you don't get extra points for just being verbose. You get extra points because you answer the question. In life, I mean, that's just how it works, especially the higher you go. I know that in today's culture, this could be controversial, but we all think our opinions are important. To you, they are. Most of us, we have our own opinions. So how do you get your opinions to add value? You do it by being the person that provides clarity and wisdom in your writing and in your words. That's how you do it. It's not by being the first one to provide opinions. It's by being the first one who can provide clarity. In the business world today, there's just not enough of that. And I've worked with, again, many smart people and seen them cross and talk over. I myself had to force myself to learn this skill, and I'm still learning. I'm 62, and I'm still learning. All right, so guess what? You just finished the introduction for the paper, answering the proper questions based on the proper task. So now you're gonna go into strategy. I'm gonna run through this one a little bit faster. So business strategy, again, there's your format, right? Being formal in your face. Again, I can emphasize this. You have this at work. This happens to you at work all the time. Use this system. It really works. You should clearly present at a broad level. Okay, so what? Task, right? So here we go. What business? Oh, okay, the format's kind of messed up. Let me try to make it a little bit more. So this was the A, right? And you see, Word keeps changing my stuff. I hate it. Present at a broad level what MTC business strategy is. Okay. Then what issues the current manual hiring system may present that interfere with achieving that goal, that strategy. Think about the connection here. What I said earlier about how you're bringing the concepts of the material into the discussion, right? So you know what business strategy is because you read about it in the content. Use that. Then the hiring process, you know what the challenges are. So what is it that is interfering between the manual process and the strategic? Tons of information in the case study that can fill pages and pages of that. So there's plenty of material there. How improving the hiring process will benefit MTC and support his business strategy. There's actually two subtasks in there. Benefit MTC, that's one, and business strategy, that's the second one. Now, all you have to do is, now you have the answers to those tasks. Once you get rid of all the extra, you end up with the answers, make it into one cohesive paragraph. All right. The next one I got to spend some time on, competitive advantage, which is B. A lot of people miss this, but there is actually a section in the material that talks about competitive advantage. 90% of you guys are going to miss it because we're just making it up. We just make up competitive advantage. But if you go back to the week 1 under doesn't matter anyway, there is a whole doesn't matter section. There is a section on competitive advantage right here. And he talks about what competitive advantage is. And according to Potter, there are two primary methods of obtaining competitive advantage. Cost advantage and differentiation advantage. That's the context you have to write in. What most students do is just figure, well, this is about competition. I can talk about competition because we are better, or we can do this and we can do that. None of that reflects that you learn anything from the class material. So, first, provide an overview of the competitive environment at MTC is currently operating based on the information from the case study. Then explain how, this is 2 tasks, how and Y, and I missed something. Okay, then explain. There with the T. So this was the first task, and this is another one. Can use the hiring system to increase its competitive advantage and help achieve its overall goal. Your explanation should demonstrate your understanding of the competitive advantage. This is what most people do. They don't apply anything they've learned from the class. This is where they lose a lot of points. Don't do that. I put it on an announcements, and I'm repeating it here. Cannot say it enough. All right. So now they go to, again, the format kind of changed a little bit because the format in Word is messing it up for me. But this is B, and this is going to be C, strategic objectives. Okay, where did it go? All right, doesn't matter. What I normally do is I start with don't try to start with this assignment Word document. Start with a new one. I'm actually going to post a format that I used in the past that I would just take this content and paste it with a format, and then you make sure you do the introduction, section 1, ABC yourself. So strategic objectives. Now this one is different, and you're going to see this for the next 2, 3, stage 1, 2, and 3. You're going to get a lot of tables, and each table is going to require an introduction. And I'm going to keep saying this. Introductions are a great place to put references. Remember, if stage requires 2 references, introductions are a great way to put a reference. As a matter of fact, I gave you 2 other places with this assignment. You can put a reference in competitive advantage. It could be an external reference, or you could use the class material. And in business strategy, the same thing. You could use the one from the content material or from an external research. All right, so what you do here, you review the 4 strategic goals, and then the CO. Again, you see how I'm breaking all these into little subtasks? Then one thing that happens in here too is that it tells you that, as you can see from the example before, it actually defines you what an objective is and how it should be written, right? It's basically this format. And I'm going to highlight that for you too. It has to be specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant. Well, where are you going to get that from? You're going to get it from the case studies. In every interview and things you talk about, there's a lot of numbers thrown out there. Some of those things map to this goal. So let me go back and review that for you guys. Here's the case study again. So here is the strategic direction, and in there were 4 goals. So between that, in the strategy and the current business environment and the strategic direction and the challenges, and in the interviews, especially of the CEO and the CFO, they gave you what you need to write. Noticing here too how in here there's a lot of numbers, right? Goals. There's even sub goals in there of things they want to do. Those will map into strategic objectives. All right. And then let me go back before I keep going. So what is this going to, all these is going to look like? It's going to look at table. Here are the 4 strategic goals. Here's your objective. And then there's the explanation. The only problem I have is most people get with, it's going to be hard to do completely measurable and time bound. Even the information out there, you just have to look for it. But as long as they're clear objectives that tie to the goal, you'll know when to get full credit. But you have to be a clear objective. The explanation is where people mess up. They start talking about HR department. They start talking about internal problems. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how it maps to the objective and the strategic goals. So the explanation has to say, the new hire system will support this objective by providing this. And that thing will make sure that the objective and the strategic goal can be met. Does that make sense? All right. If you didn't understand that, I'm sorry, I keep running this way because that's what my camera is, my picture is, but I know my camera is here. I just realized that. Sorry about that. So that's how you fill it. You create a clear objective from the stuff that's in here, and now you explain how a new hiring system, and I already kind of told you it's going to be an automated hiring system that can provide all kind of information. Another tip, this is where you can use. Everybody here has been hired one time. Probably LinkedIn provides a lot of automated hiring tools. US jobs.com. What is Indeed is a big one out there. That's kind of what you'll imagine a system like that, and what kind of information you could pull out of it. It's going to take you to read the content material to realize this is beyond. You gotta expand your knowledge here about strategic objectives and how you have to not think just tactically about how we make my job better or my section better, how we make the business better. Think I'll beat that horse to death. All right, the last one is decision making, and then the one thing is you have to read this part called how information supports decision making. Again, that's in the content material. I think it's on week 2. Let me go back to that. Week 2. How information supports decision making, and in here it shows you these levels of organization: operational level, managerial, and strategic. That's what they're talking about. You need to look at this. You need to look at this content matter, and then it tells you once you read that for each management role, complete a table with the appropriate level. Okay, that's task 1. An example of specific decision. That's his task number 2. And what type of information from the hiring system will be needed to support that decision. Okay? And then there's more other stuff there. Like I mentioned before, you need an introduction too. For this section. There we go. There's that task. Here, provide an introduction sentence. Again, great places to put references. So now that you know what they are, it's basically describing the table. So the introduction to this could be, this is what I'm going to give you the tip on external sources. Because introductions to these tables are a great place to put external sources. Focus on the topic, which is decision making. So maybe you find a reference, external reference that says business decision making. And you bring this in here. According to Vasquez, 2022, business decision making is complex because of all the external factors, blah, 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 A, B, and C. In the below table, we are illustrating some decisions at 3 levels of management and how information system will support it. Bingo! You got your reference and you got the introduction. You see how sometimes your tasks are your answers and how you can pull that information out. All right? And again, this is applicable to anything you do in life, job related, and it will really help you clarify your thoughts. Most of the questions I got from students because they just see the task and they have not they don't have a methodology to think. This is a methodology that I've used for years to think about problems. It's breaking the elephant into smaller pieces, so I know how to eat it. So in here, levels as defined in the course content. 3 words: strategic, managerial, operational. You need to decide which one belongs to that. It should be obvious. So what is an example of that? So what decision will the senior executive have to make? You go over here and you look about all these things they said at the strategic level, the challenges, the big stuff they have to deal with at the business level. And what do you think the CEO or CFO will want to know to make decisions on? You also look at their interviews, and there may be tips in there from their interviews that may point to decisions that they're looking for. And then once you do that, now you have to provide what kind of example of information a system will provide towards that decision. Okay? So let's think CEO. What does he think of growing the business? How many contracts? How can we get people to fulfill contracts? Can we fulfill contracts somewhere else? Can we go to Europe? Blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of making some of that stuff up. Just follow the case study. So what kind of information? Well, maybe what you need as a CEO is to see how fast our contracts are getting filled by people, which means how fast are we hiring people. So there's a piece of information, right? You come up with your own stuff. I'm just giving you an example. Now you're done. You got to look at the format. Make sure the formats are correct. That you follow the outline, and that you have now your reference list with 2 references on it. One internal, one external. And now you have your basic formatted Stage 1 completed paper, which will continue to grow for stage 2, 3, and 4. All right, that is it. It was a longer, I was not intended to go this long on this video, but to me it was important for you to understand how I think and how it can help you in the work environment to learn to be strategic in your thinking. So you owe all of that to a one-star Marine Corps general who stood up in front of all his lieutenants and said, when I ask for a ham sandwich, give me a ham sandwich and not a cheeseburger. Have a good night.